We will defend these police officers.
Listen to police officers' commands, listen to what we tell you, and just stop. The nation needs to realize that when we tell you to do something, do it. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're right, then the courts will figure it out.
We don't get to take the law, we enforce it. But at the end of the day, each and every member should go home safe. Sometimes the use of force is necessary. You need to comply with the police officer the way the system was meant to be. Comply with the orders of police officers. Resisting arrest is a real and dangerous crime.
Nonpartisan Liberty for All. I'm your host, Dave Bourne, and I actually just kind of fucked something up too. We're coming to you live from Las Vegas, Nevada. Thank you for tuning in. We're on weekdays, Tuesday through Thursday at 7 o'clock Pacific, 10 o'clock Eastern, and you can listen live on Spreaker.com and NonPartisanLibertyForall.com. And you can listen to the archives on like a million different applications on Spreaker, YouTube, Twitter, SoundCloud, just to name a few. And they post to those immediately after the show. So if you happen to miss the show, you can go right to YouTube or Spreaker or Twitter or SoundCloud and listen back to the show. We promote the ideas of true freedom and liberty, meaning being able to do whatever you want as long as you respect the freedom of others and don't directly interfere with their freedom, as well as exposing government for what it is, a mafia based on extortion that rules without consent, by threat of force and violence. So today we have an exciting show for you. I'm trying to make sure that this is on the right fucking thing. For some reason it was off earlier. So yes, I do for the I have a studio audience today. So for the studio audience, yes, I do curse on my show when I feel like it. I'm not a curse every minute person like people that just say fuck just to say it, and they just want to say fuck every minute like I'm sounding like right now. But when it's needed or I feel like saying it, I will. And that's one of the reasons why I like the internet a lot better, to be honest, than being on regular radio, because you have total control. And it's a medium where you can obviously reach, I mean, technically, I could reach the whole world. Now, I'm not doing all that well, so I have had people listen in other countries, but it was probably like one person who was flipping through Spreaker or something and listened for like 30 seconds and was like, I don't even understand what this motherfucker's saying, and just turned it off. But anyway, we have live in the studio running for the U.S. House of Representatives for District 1. 2 years ago, she ran for District 3 in 2014, and then she had also run for the state, was it state assembly?
State Senate. State Senate.
They're all the same to me. The state Senate in, when was that, like 2010?
It was in 2012.
Oh, 2012.
Yes.
So it's every 2 years. So last year, 2014, she actually did pretty good. She got the Republican nomination. You came close, right? She is a Republican in the District 3. Nevada's split up into 4 districts, and
so it was it's actually District 1, and
well, it's District 1 now.
No, it's
right?
Actually this is 3.
Oh, it's the other way around.
It's the other way. That's cool.
So I fucked that up. So
That's
okay,
cool.
It's right. So you ran in District 1 before. I should know because I live in District 3. So
Okay.
And I know you're running in my district this time. So we have Annette Tejirio. Did I pronounce your name right?
You
I always
did fine.
mess up your name, and I mess up spelling it sometimes too. It's hard to spell. Is joining us. She'll be joining us for the beginning of the show. Of course, later in the show, we'll be talking about our main topic, which is kind of related to what we're talking about now, is the rigging of elections. And I've talked a lot about this, but haven't really done a whole show on it, where essentially all elections are rigged, and not meaning in the sense that they're rigged in the ballot box where the count is rigged, but they're rigged in other ways, where whether it's money or government media or the two-party system. I mean, essentially, you get two people put in front of you, and you get to choose from them. And that's really, I don't see where you have any say or any choice or any of that. But we'll talk about that later in the show. Shire Dude will be joining us later in the show. But so you actually, and I remember you telling this story a while ago. I think it was at a Common Core rally. And speaking of Common Core, when I say to Common Core, you can handle Common Core really easily. All you have to do is just take your fucking kids out of school. There you go. Common Core handled, all done with. Everybody take their kids out of school. No more Common Core. Anyway, so you started to talk about your father is from or was from Cuba and actually grew up there.
Yes.
And he had come here was he a teenager? He was older, right?
My dad was older. He came as an adult. He came when Castro took over. Over Cuba. Yes. So he was 29, 30.
So
something.
was it hard for him at that point to get out? I remember watching Godfather. I don't know how true that was to what had happened. I don't know a lot about what went on with the rebellion in Cuba when Castro took over. I know more about probably what they were trying to do in the United States because of the whole thing with JFK. But was it hard to get out at that point, or was that like right before they were like locking things down?
Oh no, it was hard. It was hard to get out, and the only way that he was able to get out is he didn't say that he was leaving Cuba permanently. He said that he was going on a business trip and, of course, never returned. But he had to leave because he would have been killed. My father, unfortunately, found out about corruption in the Castro regime. He did not know that the corruption led all the way up to Fidel Castro.
Well, wasn't there, I realize, of course, the corruption with Castro is worse than his predecessor, who was Batista, right? But he was very corrupt, too. I mean, I know the mafia was pretty much paying him off to that. Pretty much what happened, from what I understand, at least the part about opening casinos and having a relationship with the government, that part was true from The Godfather, that they were going to have all these casinos in Cuba, and then they have, a country that close to the United States that was friends with the mafia, essentially.
So when you look at Cuba, well, Batista was a dictator.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like he was a great guy neither, but from what I understood, Castro used that to his advantage.
Absolutely.
So basically, he went there and kind of said, well, look at what this guy's doing, and then pretty much used it to take over for himself, and then was worse than Batista was in the first place.
Right. So when Castro took over, he never said he was going to be a full-blown communist. And he never said that he was going to be a tyrant. He said that he was going to allow elections, that people were going to get free education, they were going to get health care, that he was going to improve everything.
Hey, sounds like Bernie Sanders.
Aha! Now you're cooking.
So I know you had mentioned that one of the things, because this was not a seminar, but it was people that were going over Common Core. It was like some meeting where some people were going over Common Core. And one of the things that you had mentioned at that point was about how your father would tell you about the kids in Cuba and how they, the first thing they did was go after all the kids and the schools to essentially train them to believe in all of this, bullshit.
So what ended up happening in Cuba is he promised free education for everybody so that everyone would be literate, etc. However, in the process, he shifted the loyalty of the child from the parents and the family to the state. So the children were taught that when their parents or anybody in their family spoke ill of the government, to report it. And therefore, that's how he started to control the most personal and private conversations in the home.
Which is exactly what you have going on now with the, you even have it at movies now. You have these commercials. Now, they're not saying talking about the parents specifically, but the see something, say something. They're talking about snitching on your neighbors, and whatever you see your neighbors doing, go and you call the police on them, and that type of thing. And they did do that with DARE, which was a program, for people who don't know, more in the 80s. I don't know how long it went or if it's still around. I don't think it's still around, but it was a anti-drug program where they would teach kids to essentially snitch on their parents if they had drugs. So it was a similar type thing there. So what did you, and I believe your mother was...
my mother's Puerto Rican. Yep, yeah. My mother's Puerto Rican.
So growing up, how did you grow up in terms of your father having the experience he had? And I don't know your mother growing up in Puerto Rico, if during the whole time she was there, was it a U.S. territory, or did it become, or now it's a Commonwealth or whatever? Was it always part of the U.S. when she was there, or did she have any types of experiences, any similar types of experiences or anything?
It's been a territory. It's continued to be a territory pretty much all of her adult life. So when she actually left the island and came to the U.S. to help her sister, she's a U.S. citizen.
Right. There wasn't like much of a difference there. I mean, there's a difference, like it's the area-wise, but I mean, besides that, not much of a difference government-wise. So what things did you learn from your father growing up, and did that, I guess, affect you or influence you in any of the directions you're going now? Because for those who don't know, you're a doctor, and it seems like there's a lot of doctors now running for Congress. Right below lawyers, next is doctors.
I wish it was that way.
It seems it looks like, well, I mean, there's not as many it's nowhere near it. But everyone I can think of that's, or at least every politician that I can think of that's in at least, on a higher level in Congress, that's not a lawyer or former judge or, something in the, and a judge was, went to school to be a lawyer as well, is a doctor like Rand Paul and Ron Paul and Joe Heck, and there's a couple others as well that I'm aware of. So what, I guess, made you was there anything, growing up that with your father and what he saw and what he witnessed that kind of affected you and you would say contributed to you finally getting to this point, or not getting to this point like right now, because you've been, running for maybe, you said since 2012 now. So it's been about 4 years, but that got you to the point where you wanted to do something and run for office.
Wow, this has been a very long process. So in answer to your question, as far as having my father be Cuban and him going through everything that he did, absolutely. It made me very aware when government started changing and infecting more and more of our personal life. When I was very little, I wanted to be a doctor. I became a doctor. Just so your listeners know, there are only 7...
You played doctor a lot when you were little?
Yeah, right. There are only 17 physicians in all of Congress. I think that the highlight...
Is that true?
Yeah, there's only 17. There's 3 in the Senate. Rand Paul is one of them. And then there are 14 in the House, and we happen to have one in this district by the name of Dr. Joe Heck. So I think you see it maybe more here. But there are 184 licensed lawyers.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that the majority of them are lawyers.
Yes, they are.
But it seems like if you were to take the next profession, and that might not be true, doctor, if you're saying that there's only 17 doctors,
there's only 17,
and then 184 lawyers,
yep,
and that's all of Congress, so 535 people. Okay, so then, but you may have everyone else that's in Congress, you may not have another job that a lot of people share. It may just be a whole bunch of different jobs. I would have thought it would have been more than that for lawyers. But is that not counting? Are they counting judges, people that were former judges and stuff like that as well, or the last job? So, like, do they look at it as their last job was a lawyer, or their last job? If their last job was a judge, do they count that in that 184?
Well, in order to be a judge in some states, you do not have to be a lawyer. You don't necessarily have to be a JD.
Yeah, but I think you got to you got to get a degree.
Yes.
Well, because you're voted in, so I guess technically you can.
It depends on the state. It really does.
But most
and the level.
But you might not have to be a lawyer. But I would think you'd at least have to have a law degree. Maybe you didn't pass the bar. But, so I would count anybody who has anything to do with that. I would count in that, Yeah.
Well, there are business people that are in there. There are other kinds of healthcare providers. But I think
you also have like Ben Carson, who's another one who's running for president. He's a doctor.
And I think that's why you're looking at it and you're seeing all these doctors come up. But when it comes to me deciding, this was not just a process that happened recently. I have been involved in representing people for healthcare policy pretty much ever since I got back from residency. I've also done a lot of community service and volunteer work in the hospitals. So what we found is as government started to take more and more control of our private health care, I started to become more and more aware and more active trying to protect people through healthcare policy in the state. And then came Obamacare. and Obamacare is from the federal level, and it pretty much dictates what the state does. So once that happened, I knew that there would be only a small window of opportunity to do anything on a state level, and then it would have to go on the federal level.
Do you think that that influences other doctors as well? Because I just heard of, I read the bill actually, not all of it because it was, like 1,000 pages. And you can't even really follow it because what it does is it says, well, this to be determined by this and this to be determined by this. So I tried to look for where I could find that, and I couldn't find it. But what I focused on was the data aspect and all of the data that is changing because of it. All the data they're storing now in databases, and how even in the bill it says that they're going to review the data because they're going to do things like check out the results and compare results and things like that. So
supposedly to improve your health care.
So I knew that it didn't matter anyway, that they would take the same way they take people's data, they would take it anyway. But they actually even wrote it in there to so they could take it without even having to go through that whole process of just stealing people's data. They don't have to do that because they wrote it in there. So,
well, the law was really written about control. That's really what it's about. It's taxation and control. So when you look at that law, it has nothing to do, it was promised. What were the promises? If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. That's not happening. If you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan. That's not happening. And it promised that everybody would eventually be insured. That's not happening either. So it was sold as a bill of goods that it was supposed to be everything for everybody, and it's not. So there was another motive.
Well, I think people should go more, and I know this doesn't cover the mandatory insurance that you're supposedly have to have, but if you just have the catastrophic and then do concierge medicine and then just do something like that where doctors, say have whatever, 100 patients or something, and that's all they take.
Usually about 500.
And then you pay them, whatever, $300 a month every month, no matter whether you go to them or not, and you get unlimited, visits there. And that's how you kind of get around that. But at the same time, if you need an operation or something serious like that, that a regular practitioner can't, or a regular doctor can't do, then, if you need to have surgery, you're going to have to pay for that. So that's why if you maybe had catastrophic and did something like that. But I don't see how they just fucked up the whole system. And 40, 50 years ago, I know that it didn't cost that much for all of this. So whether it's the drug companies or whether it's, the government partnership with them and whatever it is I think, and one of the things that I promote is, more of black market stuff, to be honest. And if you get to a point, same thing, black market medicine. I guess concierge you can do legally. So
yeah, you
but
can.
I would look at that
least
as
until
more,
now.
yeah, but if you can't, then the same thing. And I think that's where a lot of things maybe in the future should go. If the government's going to stop you from doing these things and force you to do it their way, then you create people create their own black market and do it that way. And you try to do it around the government, just like Common Core. But Common Core is something you could legally get rid of. And like I said, people just stop sending their kids to school. I know it sounds a lot harder than it is, but with the internet and with all of these meetup groups and these ways to meet people, if you really want to do it, you can do it.
Well,
I mean,
my kids are homeschooled, so I bypass that system.
so yeah, that's what I mean. But
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, if you want to homeschool your kid, if you really want to do it, you can. Because what you can do is you can meet like-minded people and kind
Exactly.
of make arrangements. So the excuse that, well, we both work or something like that, I think that I understand that, and that's a valid reason. But when we're in this age with all this technology, you can find people, like-minded people, and like do things to, well, you'll babysit their kids on the weekend and they'll homeschool them for you during the week or whatever.
Right.
There's
sort
a
of
lot
like
of
a co-op.
alternatives.
Yeah. It's sort of like a co-op.
So people need to start doing things on their own to get away from a lot of that. And I think it's hard, and I think the government's just going to continue to take more control over everything, and I think that's essentially what they do.
As long as we let them.
Well, it's not as easy as I think people think. I know it's easy to say, well, we can just, stop them from doing this or stop them from doing that. It's not always as easy as people think it might be. So after running, this is going to be your third time running. And when is the primary?
Well, early voting in Nevada starts May 28th, and it runs until June 10th. And
Early voting for the primary?
For the primary.
Okay.
And then the actual primary is June 14th. And when you say that I ran, yes, I ran in the previous congressional district, which was 1. But I think your listeners may want to hear what that district was like.
They don't care.
They don't care.
No, I'm kidding. Go ahead. No, I did mention it that it was a big, it was a Democratic district. But go ahead.
Very
please,
much so.
Please elaborate.
So the registration was 51% Democrat and 22% Republican.
And what did you come in at? You did pretty good from what I remember.
I got 38% of the vote against a 22-year incumbent. Miss Titus is a 22-year incumbent. So she's very well known. She even ran for governor. She'd been a congresswoman before. She was a sitting congresswoman. And I am just a doctor.
I heard she used to be a hooker down at downtown. I'm just kidding. I'm going to get sued or something. I'm just kidding. That was a different Dina Titus, I guess. But yeah, and there shouldn't be career politicians. This is it's crazy. People talk about they were debating on the in the master debates, and they would say well, you don't have enough experience, and you don't have, and I'm I think that's a good thing that you don't have experience.
I know.
Because you shouldn't, and you're doing things that really it was set up where people would just go to Washington and vote on some stuff and then go back home, and they had a normal job, and that wasn't the point. It wasn't supposed to be.
It was supposed to be a career.
Career, right?
Yeah.
And it's not something that. It's a good thing if you don't have experience, because maybe you'll fucking change things from the way they are, because things are obviously messed up. I looked at a statistic that this is 2014, where you had a 11% approval rating of Congress, yet 96% were reelected.
I know. And see, that's the problem with the bought and paid fors.
It's very hard to get reelected. But so I guess in your case then, because Joe Heck is leaving to become a senator, because he's obviously now a career politician, and so your seat that you're running for, it's going to be a new person no matter what.
Right. It's called an open seat. So it's very popular to run in an open seat because you're not against an incumbent.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have bought and paid for candidates in there, which we do. We have all the other people are pretty much bought and paid for.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, that means that they're getting an inordinate amount of money from people who are giving them money in exchange for some special promise or something in the future. So these big donors are people that like to give money because they expect something in return. So I'm not going to
Which is pretty much the way the system works for most people, and that's what the majority of Congress does. How many candidates are running in the Republican primary?
There are about 5 people.
And see, the way I see it, and I think it's totally corrupt, and like I said, we'll be talking about that later in the show, that the party really, if they want somebody to be the nominee, they're going to be the nominee. And that's how it works. It's totally corrupt. You have no chance if you're part of any other party or independent or anything like that, at least at that level. Maybe on like a very small like state assembly, like I think my district was 10,000 people or something. Maybe you have a chance there, maybe. But even with those, it's hard. So
well, you know, there have been a couple of examples where things have gone differently. For instance, the biggest one was Eric Cantor, who was the majority leader, Republican, who had a primary.
I remember that he had lost against some lunatic. I heard the guy was
he was just a college professor for political science, I think is what
but I
his
think
major
that
was.
And he deserved to lose because he's the guy who actually if people remember this, there was a woman who was shot and killed, had a baby in her car out in front of Washington, D.C. And, of course, I know a lot of people just believe what they read in the news. But she essentially tapped like it was what do you call it?
It's a barrier?
A barrier or whatever, and a cop like fell or something. But they tried to make it out to be like she like tried to run a cop over, which was not what happened. She had a baby in the car. They turned it into a whole high-speed chase when they could have got, her plates and dealt with it later, put more people in danger, and ended up shooting and killing her. And luckily, the baby was okay. And Eric Cantor was one of the people who praised the cops and Secret Service, along with a whole bunch of other people, Harry Reid and all of these others. So I just remember him getting up and saying that. But, yeah, I mean, it does happen, but, who knows that if they didn't want to get rid of him, if there's certain people with money that didn't want to get rid of him or not. And maybe sometimes it happens. I mean, there's so many. The
people in Virginia didn't want him.
There's so many seats, though, especially in the House of Representatives. I mean, you got 435 seats, which is kind of strange that I think it's been that way for like 50 years.
Yeah, they lost
and the
number.
Population keeps going up, but they don't add any more seats there.
No.
But yeah, I mean, it will happen. But for the most part, I think the control over the House of Representatives and the control over the Senate is going to be linked to whatever you want to call it. I just call them the powers that be, whether you want to call it, lobbyists or corporations or secret societies or whatever, are pretty much, in my opinion, the ones that control the majority of stuff of things. So just because somebody like you, if you ended up getting elected, that doesn't mean all of a sudden, oh, look, there's freedom because, look, I got elected. Because really, that's one vote, that's one person. And at the same time, there's that illusion of freedom. So I had people tell me, well, obviously we have freedom because if we didn't, then you wouldn't be able to do your show. Like, well, what does that really mean? It's really if things can happen and things can go on legally, and the government can get away with all of these things, and it's fine. It doesn't have to happen to everybody. If it's happening to a certain amount of people, then I would say that no, we're not free. And that's what I would say with that. But I know you have to go soon. So when you said the primary early voting is the 28th, and you're also, I assume you have a website, of course.
I do. It's AnnetteForCongress.com. And when you go there, you can actually go, and on the right upper side, there's a Facebook page, which gives you the more latest stuff. And it also has a YouTube and a Twitter page as well.
And
So-
you're having a fundraiser this Saturday. Is that sold out now, or can people still get tickets?
It's close to being sold out. They still can. If they go to the Facebook page, it's on the Facebook page, and they can do that. They're all obviously links so that you can try and pay for it online as well. But we also have
I bought mine online. I have my tickets.
Right. So you and your sweet Katie are going.
Yes, I will be there. It's a sit dinner, right?
You're gonna have dinner, and there'll be dancing.
5 to 11.
Yes, and we also have a business mixer tomorrow at Osaka's Japanese restaurant in Henderson off of Eastern. And we have a meet and greet breakfast on the 23rd of February at Panera Bread at all the way up off Rampart.
Do you list all that information on your website, or
all those events are listed on the Facebook page?
On the Facebook page.
That's where you can find all those. So in Boca Park.
So if they just search for you on Facebook, they'll find your Facebook page.
They'll find me, and they'll find all the stuff that I say.
They can find all that. Just real quick, I wanted to ask, one of the things that people are judged by a lot is how many bills they pass. And
how about how many bills they get rid of?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. What do you, if you end up going to Congress with all the bills and laws and codes and all of this stuff, would that be something that you would make a priority as well, as instead of somebody that, hey, look, I passed this and I did this and I did that, that you could basically say the opposite, because you could still say something, hey, I got rid of this bill, and because it seems like there are so many laws, the government doesn't even know how many laws there are, and it seems to be getting pretty crazy, especially on a federal level, where the majority of the laws should be on a state level anyway. Not that there's not too many. I mean, there's too many laws on a state level anyway, but you wouldn't have any control over that. But would that be something that you would definitely? I mean, I don't know how you would start.
Well, we could start
like
on
that,
healthcare.
but,
we could start on healthcare. That's for sure. We could streamline a lot of stuff on healthcare just to start, and we could take out some of those wonderful things that look pretty, like what we're doing with the Veterans Administration. When people talk about, oh, well, we passed a bill to give veterans this or to make this better, and then in actuality, you just keep doing the same thing that you're doing. The two people that were under investigation that moved their jobs around, that ended up getting over $400,000 to move to these new jobs, they got reinstated. So it's like, no sooner does the media take away the attention and they just go back. So those things need to be streamlined, and we need to hold the people accountable. That's very, very important in government. So limiting the government and keeping them the heck out of our private life.
I just think that it's great to think about, but as far as it happening, I just don't see it happening. I just think I see government taking more and more power, and and continuing to do that. And I see that as being the plan from the beginning. I think if you look up any definition of government, you see the word control is in every single one of them. But I know you got to go, but anything you want to say before you go?
Yeah, I'm not your regular candidate. So maybe, David, we can do this together. And a lot of people, we should be voting for people that are willing to limit government, that are willing to make sense, to use some common sense, and understand that when I grew up, understanding how government makes a huge impact. My father came here with nothing, not because he was a nobody, but because government took everything that he had. So perhaps I'm more aware than some people. I'm not complacent. I've never been complacent. So we need people that are not complacent, that are going to put government in their place. And we also need to get rid of the bought and paid for politicians and candidates. Because if we don't do that, then there's no hope in changing anything.
I don't see, honestly, any a solution through government and through the system, because I don't believe in the system, and I don't believe in fixing the system through the system. I see a solution in non-compliance and possibly self-defense going along with that. Hopefully something that never has to happen. But I see it more in non-compliance and people saying, hey, we're fed up. We're not going to obey this law. And if you get enough people to say, hey, we're not going to obey this law, you can't arrest everybody. But that doesn't mean that there's not other ways to try to make a difference as well. So everybody has their own way of trying to make a difference. And really, as long as you're trying to make a difference, I think that is the main thing. So thank you so much for joining us, and I'm sure we'll get to talk to you again before the election, because the actual election is not till November, right?
The general election is in November. Yeah, that's November 8th. But yeah, I have to get through the primary. So
yes, so hopefully you will get through the primary. And you said there's 5 other people, or is there 5 people counting you?
5 people counting me.
Okay, so hopefully you will get through the primary. That's a lot of people. Are they going to put on any debates or anything like that?
There should be a debate March 6th. One of the conservative groups is having it, but they have not gotten back to the campaign as to any details as to who will participate and who won't. We told them that we would, of course, participate, but we haven't heard anything
from
the other ones.
Some people get scared, and I believe that happened in your last race. That
she refused.
She refused because she knew that would give you an advantage. So she was probably advised not to debate you because it's only going to make her look worse. So, but hopefully this time there will be a debate. So
I'll keep you posted, and I'll keep your listeners posted.
All right. Well, thanks again, and I really appreciate it. And good luck with the election. And I really hope you get through the primary. I guess one step at a time. Is it a primary where they narrow it down to 2 candidates, so they're just one Republican and one Democrat?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we'll have to check out where you're polling at some point. They'll probably come out with some kind of poll, I would think, locally, and we'll have to look at that as well. So,
yep.
All right. Well, make sure you go to Annette's website on Facebook and check out her events and donate to the campaign.
Absolutely.
If you have some money there. I donated, sort of. I bought tickets to the
You're coming to enjoy
dinner,
the great event.
Right.
That's what you're doing.
So there's my donation that way. So
thank you, David.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
All
We'll be right back. NonPartisanLIbertyForall.com. If I can get my thing to play.
going to happen if we don't elect a Donald Trump or a Ted Cruz or a Rand Paul, because it looks like all over the world, the left is going full totalitarian. It looks, I mean, they are, and they're trying to stamp out opposition. I mean, they really are getting up on their hind legs and going for broke. Is that because they can see the world's turning against them? I mean, I talked about these demographics here, and I want your take on that as well. Gallup, share of Democrats reaches record low in history. That's Politico. Economist, The Hill, GOP within 47 state wins, maybe more out of 50. I mean, they're panicked right now. What might they pull? So that's the second question. But first off, your evolution.
Sure. As I said, I'm a sentimental Republican, young Republican national chairman from 1977 to 1979. Learned politics at the knee of Nixon. Worked in 3 presidential campaigns for Ronald Reagan. Never a Bush Republican. Supported him for vice president only after he got on the ticket. Actively opposed his getting on the ticket inside the Reagan operation. Promoting Jack Kemp of Buffalo, a real conservative. Recognizing the danger of Bush and the whole Bush family even then. I unfortunately, Alex, I came to the conclusion that with the nomination of Mitt Romney, both parties had become one party. It was the Wall Street Party. It was the party of endless war. It was the party of erosion of our civil liberties. It was a party of more and more spending. It was the party of the Federal Reserve and their paper money, making our dollars worthless. It was the party of banking and insurance and the special interests, the party of the lobbyists. And both parties are the same. Obama was going to close Guantanamo. It's still open. Obama was going to bring home our troops from Afghanistan. Now he's planning to send troops to Syria. It all stays the same. Doesn't matter whether the policies are Bush or Clinton or Obama or Bush or Clinton. We get the same thing. As I said earlier, I think Jeb is what they call a ringer. His job was to lose, just like his father's job was to lose in 1992 from his long-lost friend from the CIA. Clinton worked for the CIA when he was in Europe, spying on anti-war groups. George H.W. Bush worked for the CIA as early as 1961 on the Bay of Pigs invasion, involved in right-wing fundraising as an operative for the agency. He perjured himself when he was in the 70s when he said under oath that he'd never worked for the agency.
When he was made director out of the Clear Blue.
Well, he had worked there before, and he lied about it in his confirmation hearing.
Absolutely, that's obvious.
The long-time Bush ties to the intelligence community are known.
Well, they've released the documents that he was in. I mean, as you said.
Lawyer on Wall Street. The Bush family lawyer on Wall Street, Allen Dulles, the CIA director. So you see everything you need to know.
Shifting gears into big strategy, my listeners, I'd say 95% now support Donald Trump. I think it's safe to say, in reality, there's been a collapse, Mr. Stone, in support for the two parties. The 9% approval rating for Congress, I think it's manifest now. I don't think I know. They realize everyone's hemorrhaging over to Trump. Nothing works. What type of dirty tricks are you advising him to look out for, obviously?
Here's what I think is going to happen, Alex, and I think it's this is where this race is going. Because all of the primaries up to March 14th are proportional, and because many of these candidates who have no shot at being nominated still retain super PAC funds, and because of a really obscure rule pushed by the Romney people, Rule 40B of the convention, the nominee must have a majority, not just win, but a majority in at least 8 states. By all these minor candidates hanging around, they're angling for a brokered convention. Trump could win primaries overwhelmingly in big states, but they don't count unless he gets a majority. Now, you also have another problem. There are 278 superdelegates to this convention. That comprises somewhere around 5% of the convention vote. Let's call it 5%. Those are going to be people who are not elected by the Republican primary voters or in the caucuses. They're supernumeraries, 100% establishment. Alex, there's not a single Donald Trump vote in there.
And by the way, let me just stop you because I want to ring a bell here for the audience who's paying attention, but this is key. A lot of Republican insiders have said this. It's leaked. The donors are giving their money to other people like Rubio and Bush, saying it doesn't matter. Jeb has said in newspaper articles, you're never going to be president. Trump will never be. You watch. We have the delegates. So criminals love to brag. They admit that they don't care how the citizens vote. They're going to steal it there. Forget the electronic voting machines. Forget Diebold. The real fix is the delegates. So break down how they do this and then how we stop them.
Yes, I absolutely agree. Look, I got involved with a group called the Committee to Restore America's Greatness. I'm trying to put together a team of veteran convention activists, parliamentarians, lawyers, people who know this process, who can fight back. We may have to, by majority vote, or even by plurality vote, we may have to repeal the question of 840B, just repeal the rule, which the convention would have the authority to do. These superdelegates mean, mathematically, Trump needs more than 50% of the delegates up for grabs in the conventions and caucuses. Because it's Trump, he needs 55%, and that's a tall order. The establishment, the Rubios, the Bushes, the Kasichs particularly, and Jeb, they all see themselves as leading some kind of establishment coalition. The designated ticket here is Rubio, the neocon, matched with Kasich, the neocon. Two guys who are, Kasich was a banker and a lobbyist and a congressman. Consummate insider. Marco Rubio, 2 terms in the legislature, extremely green, and if anything worse, more of a neocon than Jeb. And of course, Jeb, the prince in waiting, who's looking for some late maneuver that lets him win a backroom, shady, stolen Republican National Convention.
And I love the headlines about Trump's destroying the Republican Party. No, they've destroyed it. They've destroyed the country. No one wants them. And of course, you were there when they tried to steal the election, the nomination from Reagan. They made them broker it to bring in George Herbert Walker Bush. I mean, that'd be bad enough if they said, take Rubio or some other person and they shoot Trump, then they've got Rubio in. Or you've been there at the center of this, helping stop some of it. What do we do to make sure this doesn't happen? Just educate people that a vote for anybody else is a vote for Hillary. You either vote for Trump or you vote for Hillary. And so you better vote for Trump in these primaries and give him a supermajority, or we're going to get Jeb Bush in there as a ringer, basically, or a Rubio.
Yeah, I would hope at the end of the day, once those supporting Dr. Carson learn that Carson cannot be nominated, but that he might make a great Surgeon General in a Trump administration, will realize that the political bosses of the Republican Party and the establishment candidates are going to try to steal it. So he needs to fold. And then we have to convince his delegates, most of whom I think are fine Christians and good people, that Donald Trump is the reform candidate in this race against the same establishment that they opposed. I would hope in the end, I think Ted Cruz is going to win Iowa. His problem here is that it's very early, but you and I both know this. Therefore, the headline in the mainstream media will be, as expected, Ted Cruz won Iowa, but Donald Trump was a surprisingly strong second. That's absent some upset in which Rubio slips in second and Trump goes to third, which is not likely, but it is important to recognize that this is a very narrow contest in Iowa. It's not a primary. It's an organizational exercise. It's less television driven. And it has rarely picked the winner. Trump has to finish first or second, in my view. Even if he finished third, it hardly would be the end of his candidacy. On the other hand, New Hampshire is where Trump he should be stronger, somewhat fewer evangelical Christians.
Well, he's dominating in New Hampshire right now, correct?
Big numbers. And I think
stay there, sir. I want to come back and talk strategy straight ahead. I mean, it's basically Trump or Hillary, folks. Trump or Hillary.
You are listening to Nonpartisan Liberty for All Radio with your host, Dave Bourne. Call in at 702-470-7664 or Skype in, username NonPartisanLibertyForall.
Nonpartisan Liberty for All. And we are back. Again, check out our guest, Annette Tejiro's website. She is running for U.S. the U.S. House of Representatives and District 3, which is my district. I know I fucked up the districts last time. She ran in 1, but she's running in 3. The primary, I guess she said early voting is May 28th. Of course, I don't vote, and I'm not a Republican. So I will be going to an event she's having this weekend that I guess technically I'm donating to her campaign, but she's a friend. So I usually don't have people running for office on the show, but Annette is a friend of mine, and I did want to have her on, and I do hope she wins. There's probably a lot we obviously disagree on, but, that's fine. But not only do we have one guest on the show, we also have our co-host for tonight that I have to call, but coming to you live from New Hampshire, where there's a primary going on there tonight. I guess it's over. Shire Dude.
Man.
Are you there, Mr. Dude?
Yeah, how's it going?
All right. You missed our interview. Maybe you can I thought it was pretty good.
End of it. It sounded pretty good. What party was that gal affiliated with?
She's a Republican.
Oh, okay.
So,
well, you gotta run. We're gonna talk about this tonight. You gotta run either R or D, or you're done.
You're done. Yeah, but there's and I'm not gonna get into it because she's a friend. But there's I'd rather her win than any other person that's running. But there's a lot of things that I disagree with her on. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you shouldn't be able to vote for someone that you don't know personally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to vote just because I don't vote, and I'm not a registered Republican neither. But I hope she wins and everything. It's just there's a lot of things that I would differ on. There's some things I've had long conversations with her, and I know that there's a lot of stuff that she does agree with, but obviously, she believes in having a government and things like that. So that kind of right there is a big
like you're
thing.
kind of riding the same train, but you're getting off after her. Like she gets off the train first. That's some sort of limited government idea,
right?
And you're just like, I'm going to stay on the train.
Well, I may be on the train for a while longer. Unfortunately, there's some things that I'm talking to her about that I'm trying to convince her of, things that would still require a government, but there's some ideas that I'm talking to her about that I'm trying to get her to understand better. But
urging along to like logical conclusions, like that which governs best governs least.
Right.
What's the logical conclusion of that statement?
Well, at least we did talk about repealing laws, and how all these fucking candidates, they talk about, well, what did they do? They did nothing. They didn't pass anything, and it's like, yay, that's good. But of course, the media looks at it as bad. So I think people should be judged on how many laws you repeal. You should get to a point, really, maybe somebody should actually, instead of every time you pass a law, you just add another law, you should probably have to repeal a law before you add another law. Because it's like you should have to cap out somewhere because there's way too many.
There's an interesting bill that Ron Paul talked about. I don't think this was ever actually written into a bill, but it's just kind of an idea that he threw out in one of his speeches, which is that same thing but with the budget. So if you introduce any new spending, you have to cut that spending or more from the current budget. So with that bill, just that one bill, you would actually have a balanced budget over time because they wouldn't be able to go beyond their means.
Right. You'd have, this is what we're allowed to spend, and we can't spend more than we
if we want to spend any more,
in.
like we have to cut something else.
Right. Which
so
how
there's actually like a set pie. There's not just printing money into infinity.
Well, there's some fucking people that they have been brainwashed by the government to think that, oh, well, because I've heard them say it, like the progressive radio stations, that they've actually said, well, it's not like your budget at home. It's different. It's the government. It's like, well, okay, it's not exactly like your budget at home. You're dealing with like trillions of dollars. But the concept of what you take in and what you spend is the same thing. It's like if you make $100,000, you can't spend $500,000. So for some reason they think, oh, no, but it's the government. So the government's allowed to do all this shit with credit and just printing money and in their warped minds. I don't know. But anyway, tonight we're going to talk all about the rigging of elections. And I started to get into a little of it with her because when we got into the whole party thing, because it sounds like a party, like having a party. But it really, for the most part, and you're going to have those people that say, oh, look, this person got elected, so it can happen. And that doesn't mean shit. Just like I mentioned, and I don't know if you knew that guy that used to call Free Talk Live all the time, and he's very creepy, and he threatened Mark's family and stuff like that.
I don't know that guy, no.
You might if I say his name, but I don't even want to give him the attention. Anyway, he said he started calling my show, and I just eventually started ignoring him. But I have on YouTube a post of him. But he essentially said to me that because of my show, because I'm able to do my show, that means that I have freedom somehow. I don't know.
Oh yeah. I think I heard that part. I came in. I was wolfing down a meal while I was waiting to come. Oh,
and because I brought it up when I was talking to her.
Yeah. Well, of course you're free. You have the ability to call into question politicians. It's like, it's you can go a few different ways with that. You can say, well, yeah, like I like to go on the optimist side of things. And when people ask me for real world examples of anarchy, I tell them, well, yeah, like you live in anarchy. Like your whole day is anarchy. When you wake up in the morning, you put on your pants. You don't do that because of public, indecency laws or whatever. You do it because you don't want to be cold. You don't want to be exposed. You like wearing pants, generally. And if you go through all your day's decisions, most of them aren't, oh, I just want to make the government happy. Most of them are for yourself, your own ideas. So
I wear pants because of the government, but
government issued pants.
Otherwise, I'd wear a dress, but I guess I can do that now too.
If you go to Venezuela, you see all the piles of shoes everywhere, all the government shoes that nobody wants.
They have government shoes?
Government shoes,
Venezuela.
That place is tore up. Like I just keep hearing story after story. Yeah. That's a Sanders presidency right there would lead to that. Of course, I don't think that's going to happen. Even though in New Hampshire, you probably know by now, Sanders and Trump were the victors of the primary.
I just saw it like right during the break. I'm like, fuck, before I come back, I got to go and see who won. And I saw Trump and Cruz with like 12% and Kasich with like 16%. And it doesn't really mean anything. And do you know that with the Democrats anyway, if they really want to, that they don't even have to go by the I don't think the Republicans do neither, but they were trying to say that they did. But they don't even have to go by who gets the nomination. They can just... all the delegates can just say, well, we're picking this person. We don't give a fuck what you guys voted for.
Yeah, it's pretty rare to have the faithless delegate scenario. But
well, because people would probably leave, they'd be pissed. And they'd wanna,
would leave the party in droves.
Yeah, but where are they going to go, really? But
exactly.
But technically they can do that. And it's all, that's part of the rigging of it too. But where I kind of wanted to start is why did things start becoming this way, and kind of when? And I would say that from the beginning, I mean, once people started realizing that they can get more power and more money and control. I mean, I don't know how long it took, but it probably didn't take too long. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, look at the Fed. It was, 1913. So it's really only, 125, 30 years. I guess that is a lot. But, I mean, there's things that happened way before that. People think that, in the 1800s, everything was perfect and nothing happened or something. But that's not the case. And I'm not an expert in history, and I don't claim to be, but it's I guess they were kind of preoccupied killing Native Americans, so you had that going on there too. But once they really got into politics and it became a more like it is now, where
the Electoral College.
Well, just
we're talking about like the founding of the Electoral College?
Well, no, more just the fact that like the trading of votes for favors and shit like that, and money for your campaign, and that's when I think things started to become, and I honestly, I don't know enough about when that exactly happened, because you had a few different parties throughout the years. You had the Federalists, and then you had the Whigs, because they wore wigs. And who else did you have? I think you had another party, but
the Bull Moose Party. I'm trying to remember all my history from that college class that I took. Oh gosh. But
Republicans and Democrats have been around for a while. Sorry, go ahead.
Exactly, just under different names. It tended to be just two parties kind of chugging along and then rebranding themselves over time.
Yeah, and I think... Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the reason for that is because of the way the election is set up as essentially first past the post victory, where you don't necessarily need a majority. You just need the most out of anybody's percentage. So, for instance, if you have seven different candidates for president from 7 different parties, right? And there are videos online that explain this so much better than I'm about to. In fact, I got to mention this one before I forget it. It's called Learning with Vermin. It's on YouTube.
Vermin Supreme.
It's a video of that. Yeah,
is it with Vermin Supreme?
Some guys did. It's like a whole acted out skit with Vermin Supreme as the main character, and they go through different voting processes, and they tell you why first past the post is like the worst possible way you could be voting. And most countries in the world don't even do first past the post, because like if you get like 20% of the vote, but then everyone else gets lower than 20%, you've won with that minority. You've won with only 20% of people actually wanting you in office.
Usually
and, that's what first past the post causes.
They only do that like to narrow, like some depending on the state, they may do that to narrow down the candidates or whatever. Like I know they did it for I think it was like sheriff in Las Vegas, where they had like 6 people and they did you know, a runoff of the 6 people, and they narrowed it down to 2, and then the 2 ran off against each other because it's nonpartisan position.
Yeah, and so, and then another way to kind of look at it is to look at the alternative systems to first past the post. So there's one that caught my eye called runoff voting. I don't know how familiar you are with instant runoff. It's where you vote in rounds. So like the first round you vote, you just rank all of the candidates that you want in the order
you want them.
Them.
Yeah,
so like if you're
I've heard of it, but just
if you're like a conservative leaning libertarian, then your libertarian candidate's number 1, and then your Republican is like the second choice, and you can list them as your second. So then,
but then somebody else might have done it like the opposite, and then at the end they, you know, figure it out based on what they like rank them based on, or do like a number kind of thing. And
the first round of when they count is if anybody's got a majority, like 50% or more, then the vote stops there and that person wins. But if they don't, then they knock off the lowest ranking person, and all of those votes that went to that lowest ranking person, they go to their second choice. So if the lowest ranking person was the libertarian, then all of a sudden the Republican gets most of those votes, or, you know, whoever the second choice was for those voters who got knocked out.
Yeah.
So, you know, people still get their second or third choice that way.
There's been, and that's an interesting point, just to bring up alternative ways of how people are elected, because there's also, I mean, why does it have to be narrowed down to one Democrat and one Republican? Why can't it just be you have a primary of all the candidates, and then the top 2 or the top 4 or however you want to do it, they get to the final, you know, as opposed to, well, you have to have the Republicans representative and Democrats. And I think the parties are so by design, and I mean this in that they don't go together. In my opinion, they don't go together at all. So like, meaning that there's things that Republicans talk about, we want limited government. We want less interference from the government. But we're all for the war on drugs, like as an example. And, you know, like, and then you have the progressives, they do some of the same shit where they want more government, but then you could say the opposite, like with drugs, but they want to be able to do drugs and the government leave them alone, you know? So, and there's a lot of examples, but it seems like the two parties were created and they're pretty much the same. There's just one's fascist, one's socialist. It's just a way of controlling you. And it's like, which way do you want to be controlled? But both parties are set up in a way that they're there to take power and control. Because if you had an actual party that didn't want any of those things, then the government would be fucked, because that would be, you know, more of a libertarian party or you know, freedom type party or whatever you would want to call it. But to me, those things go together. I don't see how they don't. But somehow parties got established that way. And it'd be interesting to see, like, the history of how did these parties even, you know, get established. And Republicans were totally different. They were I was listening to something today, and I've heard this before. Like, it was the Democratic Party was like the racist party after slavery and stuff like that.
Yep.
And it was the Republican Party that was, getting guns for black people and teaching them how to shoot and things like that to protect themselves from the racist Democrats and shit like that. But it's become into, at least now, one of the big reasons I think they're able to rig things is because of the political parties, because essentially they're able to get things down to two people. And you think about that what fucking choice do you have? First of all, never mind that. How do you, to even get, now if we're talking about, say, president, to even become a nominee that someone's going to pay attention to get on the stage in a debate or get on the ballot, you have to be either a billionaire, a current U.S. congressman, or you have to be something pretty important. And the only person up there that's not like either a governor or in Congress or has been in Congress is the doctor, and he's a neurosurgeon. So,
oh yeah, Ben Carson.
Yeah, and your average person is not going to be up there. So right away, they put, all these people on there that, and you're supposed to pick from this. It's like giving you a bunch of shitty things and saying, oh, I'm going to give you one of these. You get to pick from this. It's like, well, I don't want any of this shit.
Yeah, and they keep it as a binary decision. Like, for the most part, most people know that voting third party is like throwing away a vote. And so,
well, they're all throwing away a vote anyway. That's, but I know. Go ahead, and then I'll.
When I'm at work and somebody asks for something, and let's say like we're out of it, I'll offer them two other things. And the reason I don't offer three or just one is because when you offer two things, that's like the easiest choice to make for a human being is a binary decision. And oftentimes that actually works, and they end up picking one of those things, and end up selling that item. And it's just really easy to do. And it's just something that I kind of stumbled upon just while working, over the years. And it works. It works like a charm. It's really interesting.
Like there's been like studies on it as well, or is that what you mean?
I haven't really looked into it. I just know that
but you're
from my
probably
own personal
right.
experience. Yeah, it's a binary choice, and so it
well,
makes
you can
sense
flip
that
a
would be
coin.
the easiest. Yeah.
There's
and
no
so,
three-headed coin.
If you asked, oh, do you want this one item? Then the choice is, do I want that item or do I not want that item? And then if you ask about the two items, then it's like, oh, which one do I like more? What's the lesser of two evils?
Right.
And then they end up picking one of those. And any more than that, and they get confused and boggled, and if they don't want to bother thinking, then they'll just back out. So kind of an interesting salesman trick is just giving them a binary decision.
And that's obviously,
you were talking about history earlier.
Yeah. Trying to,
yeah,
at least.
And I definitely I'm sorry, we keep cutting over each other because this Skype call is terrible. But
sorry, I don't know what's
we'll chug through it. It might be on my
end. Is it snowing over there? Because I know you got some. You guys had some bad weather.
Yeah, not terrible, but it's definitely weather. But yeah, there's this political historian, Richard Hofstadter. I think I'm saying that right. He wrote a book in 1955 called The Age of Reform, and he talks about third parties in that book. And I definitely wanted to mention this little quip that he threw in here. Third parties are like bees. Once they have stung, they die. And so he talks about how Ross Perot in 1996. Everyone knows this story. He got over 8 million votes when he ran under the Reform Party. And when you look at last year, or not last year, the last election we had, 2012, that same party, the Reform Party, got just over 5,000 votes. So it's dead. It's dead.
Jesus.
Like the guy, So what happened? Where did all those people go, right? You're wondering, did they just drop off the political spectrum? Did they become anarchists?
Well,
I imagine a bunch of them did become anarchists.
It was probably more of a Ross Perot type thing where they were Ross Perot. They followed the person, not the party.
Yeah, perhaps. And so, Hofstadter goes on to say, third parties, they function. Their function has not been to win or govern, but to agitate, educate, and generate new ideas, and supply this dynamic element in our political life. So to supply, this is the excitement, is the third parties. Even if the two parties are doing the same thing over and over and over again, we can look at the third parties as like this exciting new thing. But then the problem is, once the third party's demands have become popular enough, they're appropriated and assimilated into these major parties, into one of the two major parties, and then the third party disappears. It falls off the map.
Yeah,
so
and
go ahead. One of the two parties just kind of, they just kind of gobble up this third party's new ideas, and they just make them shitty. I mean, they
what's fucked up
make them disappear, essentially,
is that the majority of people, and I saw some stuff on this, and I would say that this is true, that the majority of people aren't Democrats or Republicans, yet they still exist. And I think that really shows,
yeah.
I mean, that's another reason where you can look at it and show how corrupt and how rigged it is, because essentially both of these parties, they work in tandem to make sure that they both they want to coexist, but they don't want anybody else to get in. So you'll see them purposely do things too. It's so fucked up. Like I remember, say, the Michael Brown thing, and the Republicans would, of course, keep it going. They'd make sure that if something was said on one side, then they'd say, well, what about all the, black kids that are killed by other black kids? And it's like, well, what does that have to do with the police? But anyway, they keep it going, just using that as an example. So they do that like it is so much like professional wrestling, where they need to make sure that they create conflict between them. And then they go out and they go golfing and have fun and do all this shit. It's just like, look at the debates now and how, they badmouth each other, and they're in the same party, and then they're friends. And they always say, well, I like this person. But both parties do as much as they can to make sure that they continue to exist, and at the same time make sure that nobody else is able to get in. So it's like an elite club or something where the two parties exist, which they're pretty much the same, because the main things are they both want more government. That whole thing is, we want less government. That's a bunch of bullshit.
Yep.
They both want more government. They both want more control. And they both want more power. And, of course, money as well. But so out of those things, that's their main goals. I mean, money, power, control, and control over people's lives. So they can fight about things like gay marriage and abortion and whatever, race and racial issues and all the things that, some of them are important to an extent, but in the big scheme of things, it doesn't affect what their goals are. So it's not going to affect, their goal to continue to take more control over people's lives, or to take more freedom away, or to take more power. I mean, government is a business, and it's a business that wants to continue to expand, and they want to get involved in as many areas as possible. And these are these two parties that are a way of doing it, I guess. So
yeah. So I mean, what do you think about the Republican Party trying to assimilate and eat the Libertarian Party and the Libertarian voters? Because I know this has been going on for a while.
I mean, that's a whole bunch of bullshit, because that's why I don't use the word. I even did a show about it finally. I don't use the word libertarian anymore, period. I don't say I'm a libertarian. I don't say I'm an anarchist, because a lot of anarchists are more socialist or progressives. I say, what I say in the beginning of the show, that I stand for true freedom and liberty, and that that I believe that essentially, as long as you're not hurting anybody, you have the right to do whatever you want. And that's kind of my summary of what I believe in, although it sounds better because I have it written down when I when I do my intro at the beginning of the show. But I think that does two things. One, I think it brings down the Libertarian Party, makes them sound more like Republicans. And the other thing that it allowed the progressives to do, because I have actual clips where they did this, is they were able to throw them all in the same box and label them Republicans. Like they call them, the guy had called them Republican-like libertarians are like Republicans. It's so fucked up, man, and again, I don't even consider myself a libertarian, because I don't know what the fuck it means anymore. But being a libertarian, because you'll have people that will call you fucking conservatives. You'll have people that will call you liberals. You'll have people that will call you progressives. It's insane.
Yeah, I had a guy allege that that Shire Dude videos were funded by George Soros. I thought it was really funny. That made my day. Actually, I put that on the front page of my website, shiredude.com. I thought it was that funny that quote is right on there.
Yeah, it's insane, because they're just looking at one issue or two issues and saying, okay, well, we're going to take these issues and they happen to.
So you got to,
yeah. And I don't even agree the same way. So even though it's hard to explain, but even though that I may agree in a sense, I don't agree with them in the same way, because in my world, I don't want government to exist. So I can't really agree with them in the same way. It's like gay marriage. It's like, yeah, I think if there's marriage that's controlled by the government, then there should be gay marriage, but I don't think that there should be marriage that has anything to do with the government. And maybe that's not the best example or analogy of what I mean, but I don't agree with I wish I could think of an example. It's like how they get to the means to the end. So our end may be the same, but how you got there is totally different than how I got there.
Okay. Yeah, I think I see where you're going.
So it's and I think what they're trying to do is, just eliminate the Libertarian Party, because again, as I was saying earlier, they don't want any other parties. They want the Democrats and the Republicans because they're perfect for them because of the reasons that I said. They're both about control. They're both about power. They're both about taking more freedom away. It's just different, taking it away differently. But they're still both about doing that. They just do it in a different way.
The whole assimilation tactic, too, it goes both ways, where you have a bunch of Republican primary candidates like Marco Rubio talking about liberty and small government. Like, that guy's a joke, okay? And he's talking like he's freaking Ron Paul's nephew.
He actually said that said shit about liberty and small government. Actually, yeah, he did. Because the other, I took some notes on him, actually, because I was listening, because the other thing I wanted to talk about if we had time was the last debate. So I listened to it again before the show, not all of it, but part of it. And he keeps talking about putting people in Guantanamo and keeping the country safe and immigration and making sure terrorists, the thing that he keeps repeating is we need to keep the country safe. We need to keep the country safe. And that's what the job of the president is. Like, motherfucker, I don't need you to do shit for me. That's the whole thing. They keep talking about leader. We need a leader that does this, or we need a leader that does that. I don't need a leader. I can lead myself. I don't need any of you fucks.
These guys are really hard to listen to.
It's what are you? Yeah, it's sometimes listening to those debates are just like they're frustrating because it's like, who do you think that you are, that you know what's best for 300 million people somehow, that you are that fucking arrogant that you think that you know what's best for that many people and that you can make the best decisions? Why should anybody be making all these decisions? There's so many decisions that should not be made by government. And anyway, they forget that the president isn't supposed to make fucking laws anyway. He's just supposed to execute them.
Right.
But I put together a bunch of notes here. So I want to get to really how, and we've talked a lot about this, I think, even when you've been on the show and we've talked, because we talked about Trump and Sanders and
we always end up
things
back
like
on
that.
Them.
And this isn't about them, but yeah. So I want to look at how things are rigged, because I always have to say, I'm not talking about the actual vote. Although I think if they felt they had to do that, they would, and they already have it set up. And there was a guy who came forward at some point in the past, maybe it was in the 90s or early 2000s. I don't know if you heard this. I should have pulled the clip, but you can find it on YouTube, that they did cheat using the machines. Either they cheated or he came forward and said how you can easily rig an election with the machines. And even in, I read Jesse Ventura's book, and that was one of his big things. He was talking about how all the creators of these machines had admitted that there's no audit record, there's no nothing, there's no way that you can prove anything from the machines. Yeah. So you would think, because what I would do, and as somebody who has worked, with systems and things like that and automating things, is I would have obviously a record print out, some kind of manual, piece of paper or something like that, print out with every vote. So if you ever wanted to audit it, obviously you could. So you store the manual vote with whatever other information, the totals, and put it all together and, store it for a certain amount of years. And obviously you go through and audit it too for testing purposes and make sure that it fucking comes out to the right number. It's basic accounting, like, okay, we have these many votes for this person, and in the machine we have this person. I can't believe in 2000 they were still doing like Scantron fucking shit that they did in Florida. What the fuck? I mean, that's a totally different subject, but I can't believe they were still doing that. Yeah, I mean, Jesus, it was like 2000 already, and they're doing that shit. But no, I mean, obviously you're talking about something very important here, and well, it is and it's not. In a way, it doesn't, because and that's where I get like all fucked up, because I could say, yeah, it's very important, but in a way it's not, because I think it's rigged anyway, and really what's the fucking difference? But in a world where to most people it would be something that's important, that the actual votes tie out, and if you wanted to go back and audit them, you should be able to. But from what I understand, everything's just stored within the computer. And no, there is no way to audit them. They can easily be hacked into or reconfigured or whatever. And that was, again, a big thing that Ventura was talking about. So I think in this day and age, yeah, obviously you should have something automated. But at the same time, when you're talking about voting, you should have some kind of way to validate it at the same time. But how I think it's rigged, and please feel free to jump in if it's, on the comments I'm making, or to add any of your own. I think you have a number of ways, and we've kind of been talking about them, the parties being the biggest thing. So first of all, with the parties, we already know that if you're not if you're not a Democrat or Republican, there's no way, we'll say at least 99.9% chance that you're going to get elected to anything outside of at least the state Congress or whatever they call it in the states, their state house. I don't know, because I know different states have different things. Like in Nevada, they have the Assembly and the Senate, but some have the Senate and the state House.
Legislature.
Yes, thank you. I sound like an idiot. Yeah. So I think even to the point of the state legislature, I think if you looked at state legislatures, now New Hampshire may be a little different, but you're probably not going to find any independents. And if you do, the amount is going to be so tiny that it's going to be like 99.9% are Republicans or Democrats. So I think the fact that you have to be part of one of these parties is pretty much a given. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you have to be in one of the two major parties to even get into politics. Like even on a minimum level.
Yeah, exactly. Even on something like that. There could be exceptions. I guess Bernie Sanders is sort of, but he's really a Democrat who I think didn't get the Democratic nomination. But we'll say for the most part, there could be some obscure exceptions, but for the most part, you have to be one of these parties. So once you get under these parties, there's certain things that you have to follow. One, of course, you have to get the nomination. So you're competing against these other people to get the nomination. And even on something like the state assembly or something in a small state, you don't have that good of a chance if the party does not want you to be their nominee. I don't care really how many people support you. I think that the party is the one really calling the shots, because they're the ones who are going to give you the money, and they're the ones that can run the ads. And, you know, because on a level like that, you think of something like state assembly, you know, one, how many people even vote for state assembly? Not many.
Yeah.
You know, and in
New Hampshire, we have 400 state reps in our state house.
New Hampshire's a whole different animal.
Very tiny districts are voting for these people.
But if
the establishment doesn't want you over here, they'll run smear campaigns against you, and they will fund their establishment candidate with like a ridiculous amount of money.
There you go. And being that not that many people vote, I mean, like, all they got to do really is put up some billboards, put up whatever, and, you know, when people are going through casting their votes, either they won't vote for that at all. I know in Nevada you have, what do you call it? I forget the exact word for it, but it's basically nobody. It doesn't say nobody, but it says something to that effect. Like, we actually have a thing that says nobody. Well, it doesn't say nobody, but it says something to that effect. Fuck, I can't think of what it says. Oh, none of the above. It says none of the above. That's what it says. So
nice.
You can actually, and somebody, this was funny, the guy who got like the nominee for Democrat for governor, I think, he got more none of the aboves than votes. That's funny. So basically none of the above actually beat him. So none of the above probably should have ran against the Republican. But so they have that. But what I'm saying is, if you see that name a couple times, you know, and you've seen billboards, you've seen commercials, you might just be like, okay, whatever, I'll check off this person. Or you have the people that just check off the Republicans or the Democrats. But, well, we'd be talking about primaries. So, yeah. So they check off, you know, probably the person who they heard the most about, even if it was just a billboard or something small. You know, they just identify with the name.
I'd be interested to find out how many votes are defensive votes. So, like, you haven't really heard much from the Democratic candidate, but you heard the Republican candidate, and you hated him so much that you ran and voted Democrat. You know, just whoever's the top Democrat, I'll vote for them as long as we don't have John McCain in office. You know, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
But people who don't even really know who they're voting for. They're just voting against someone else.
Right. That they just don't want this person. But I would probably say, and especially probably more on a smaller level than on a bigger level, because these are more unknown people, that the party has more control over somebody like state assembly than they have over like somebody who's in the U.S. Senate, depending on who they are. Because if they're like a known person, you know what I mean, they might have less control if they're like an incumbent or something. But I think either way, that the party pretty much is the one who, same thing, I'd say up in the 90% something, is the one who is really going to get whoever they want nominated. Now, it's not going to happen every single time. You're going to have, you know, exceptions. But I think for the most part, no matter what the position, that's who's going to get the nomination. Now, maybe president's a whole different animal. So president, I think we should talk about totally separately. But, you know, what are your thoughts on that as far as how much the party controls the nominee? Again, with the exception of president, because that's a whole different thing that we can talk about separately.
Yeah, like I said, there's one really great story that I have about Andre Rosa. He's a Free Stater here in Manchester, and he was running for alderman in one of the wards.
What the fuck is an alderman?
And,
I've heard that
local
before.
Office. It's not even in the. It's not even in the.
It sounds like a religious,
it's like this local thing,
like position.
We were saying it sounded like a superhero, alderman. You know,
alderman.
Yeah, that was the running joke for a while. And
give him a cape and shit.
I don't remember who exactly did it. I want to say there's this group called Granite State Progress. And they're like the anti-Free State group of, you know, they're this coalition of progressives who they just want to smash the Free Staters. And they ran this ad about Andre Rosa, and they actually cited when Andre was on, back when I did RLS, the Rebel Love Show, they actually cited one of those episodes that Andre was on like what he was talking about in the episode. And I don't remember exactly what they cited, but just the fact that you have these crazed progressives looking online desperately, Googling you, trying to find you, trying to find dirt on you. They're out there.
This is for aldermen. Yeah. I mean, you're not talking about like fucking Congress, like U.S. Congress or something. You're talking about a fucking alderman, and that's crazy, man.
Yeah, and I'm looking at I actually, while we were talking, I looked up who if anyone is an independent member of the New Hampshire House of Representatives. There's one.
Yeah, so there you go. And you're talking about New Hampshire, where independents could easily get elected. But I think part of that, from what I understand, from what I've heard Ian say, is because it's so much easier to just run as a Republican or a Democrat, and it doesn't really mean as much in New Hampshire as it does in other places. So they'll just run as, a Democrat or Republican.
Like Vermin Supreme was on the Democratic ballot, and just the fact that he could actually get on the ballot, like a candidate like him, the guy that wears the boot on his head, can get on a ballot. It's a testament to, it's actually, and this is the presidential primary that he got on the ballot.
And really, in New Hampshire?
It's actually pretty easy here.
Damn, that'd be cool if he won New Hampshire.
He actually, I'm looking at the results too.
That would be fucking cool, man.
Every now and then. He got 4th in the Democratic primary. With, it's still like a menial amount of votes. I'm looking at Bernie Sanders has like 123,000 votes.
Yeah.
Which is about 60%. And this is like 81% precincts reporting. So these aren't final numbers. But Vermin Supreme came in right after O'Malley. So you got Bernie, then Hillary, then O'Malley, then Vermin Supreme.
Yeah, there's not that many neither, like in the Republican. But still, if there was some way that like people just hardcore campaign, get everybody to register to vote, just to vote for Vermin Supreme, and have them have to be on the fucking news and actually say that, how many ever, like 4 electoral votes or something for New Hampshire, something like that.
Something ridiculous.
The 4 electoral votes go to Vermin Supreme. Like,
I bet you the election that we have the election where Vermin Supreme wins a primary is the last time New Hampshire is going to be first. in the primaries. It's going to be, or people are just going to discount New Hampshire completely. They're just going to be like, well, you elected Vermin Supreme, so we don't ever have to listen to you again.
Well, at least even with that,
it would be a victory.
They probably have to mention him. How many votes did he get?
Right as of 81% precincts, he's got 211 votes.
Oh.
So it looks like he's actually a little bit down this time around from 4 years ago. But I think there's just more going on in 2012.
Yeah.
And that's actually when he got really big with the whole when he got to glitter bomb Randall Terry. And actually seen the famous YouTube video of him glitter bombing Randall Terry
I haven't seen it
during lesser known candidates debate, but that actually caused him to be banned from the lesser known candidates debate. They won't let him back in because of the glitter, because apparently glitter is really hard to clean out of carpet.
Yeah, because shouldn't he, if he's on the ballot in New Hampshire, shouldn't he have been at the debate with Hillary and Bernie Sanders?
Oh, right. Oh, of course.
It should have been Hillary, Bernie Sanders, and Vermin Supreme.
Yeah.
And they probably would have threw him out after like 5 minutes. He probably would have made like some fucked up, jokes or whatever. And but that would have just been funny as shit. But yeah, I mean,
the fact that he's coming in fourth is just hilarious.
Yeah. But going back to what we were saying, that I think that for the most part, one, if you're not a Democrat or a Republican, you have no choice at all. You get two people put in front of you. That's it for the most part. You get all that decided for you. But even if you're not, I pretty much think, as we were saying, for the most part, that you also get the nominees pretty much decided by the parties based on how much money they spend, how much they put in the media. I mean, they can put stories out there. They can, there's so many things that they can do. They can look into somebody's past if they want. So I think that as far as the nominees, I think a lot of that is controlled at that level. Now, it's also by, the corporations and the people I just call the powers that be, because they also donate as well. So between the parties, I think the parties are more involved on the smaller level where, the powers that be don't give a fuck. But when you get to the higher levels of like Congress and things like that, that's where I think it's more rigged, partially by the party, but that the party is also getting some information or getting some
federal funds
dictation
those main
as far as who to give it to.
Yeah, those main two parties, they get all sorts of public funding for the general election. Just because you remember when Gary Johnson was running in 2012, his big thing was, we need just 5% of the popular vote in order to get all this federal funding.
Didn't he get close?
That's the threshold. No. They get around like 1%. Like it's ridiculous. The Libertarian Party will get consistently 1%. Like every time. And it's sad. It's sad that they're scraping for 5%, but it's the thing of like, you get all this funding if you get to 5%, but you really can't get to 5% unless you have the funding.
See,
so it's a catch-22.
And this is what's so fucked up is probably at least 20% of people are at least establishment libertarians.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm not talking about the people that are to the level that we are, but I'm talking about, you know, people that believe in government, but they believe in, you know, limited government, like truly believe in limited government, not like what the Republicans say.
Yeah,
so
when I'm mentioning like the Libertarian Party, like I'm a firm believer that the Libertarian Party has been essentially co-opted by Republicans, you know, or just people who might be fed up with the Republican Party and want to do something different, but actually aren't for limited government.
What they say,
they're just fed up and they've moved on, and now they're bringing their baggage over to the Libertarian Party.
Well, people saying, you might have said this also, but a bunch of people have said it. It basically what it is it's Republicans that want to be able to be like a director of something at a political party because there's like nobody there. So like they have, you know, the Republican Party, they don't have a chance, but then they go to the Libertarian Party and they're like director of whatever, you know, because there's not enough people. So I mean, like that's kind of what it is. So yeah, but it's just fucked up that what I'm saying is that it doesn't represent the actual people and what their ideas are and how they feel and what party they would be part of. I mean, people are basically just forced to be part of one or the other. But for the most part, I think the majority of people don't believe in either of them. And I think the fact that they don't, and we still don't have a third party, and we still don't have, you know, any of these parties getting that many votes. And it's for that same reason that you said earlier, too, is, oh, you're throwing your vote away. But think about this, and this is what I was going to say to that. You're throwing your vote away. What the fuck does your vote mean anyway? Seriously, like, do people actually think their vote fucking matters in a presidential election? So I looked up the statistics on Obama. I have this whole Obama's election in 2012. Fuck, did I send it over? Then it's on this computer if I didn't. So essentially, let me open it up real quick. One statistic I do have that I wrote down is that 129 million people voted. So in the 2012 election, Obama got 65 million votes. So if you say that there are, say, 315 million people in the country, really only 20% of the country voted for Obama. Now, of course, not everybody can vote that's in that 315 million, but I remember I even took the amount of registered, or not registered voters, but people that can vote, and he still got less votes. So you know how they'll like go around and say, you know, act like, oh yeah, the majority of the people voted for me and I can do what I want because the people support me. And it's like, not really. It's not even the amount of registered voters. It's you got the most amount of votes of the registered voters that decided to vote. So
yeah, and sometimes it's not even that. You know, sometimes like if you have enough third party votes, they don't even come close to that. So it's really a minority rule.
Yeah, it exactly, because again, there's 315 million people. And yes, I know people under 18 can't vote, but in a way, it
doesn't mean they can't. They're not being ruled.
It's irrelevant. Exactly. Yeah. They're still being ruled over. So 20% of the people, because I hear these fuckers when I would listen to progressive radio to listen to the bullshit that they say. And it was funny. Not that I'm making fun of anybody that's gay, that's fine. But this guy had like a real feminine gay voice, and he just sounded like he was I don't know. He was like, I'm not gonna do his voice. Never mind. But he was just a real feminine like voice. I actually have a clip of him. I should play it. But anyway, so he got 65 million votes, which is nothing. You have like more people that have watched like certain movies. I mean, it's so to say that, you know, the majority of people voted for him. The majority of people didn't vote for him. Not even the majority of eligible voters. I got to bring up that. I'll bring it up during the break. But yeah, not even the majority of eligible voters voted for him, because you have people that aren't registered, and then you have people that are registered that just didn't vote, like me. So it's such bullshit to say that, well, yeah, you know, I got the majority of the votes, so people wanted me to do these things. And I've heard people say that, like, that support him, that, well, he got most of the votes, so he can, like ignorant motherfuckers that are like, he can do whatever he wants because he got most of the votes, so the people want him to do this. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? But not to get totally off topic there. The other statistics, since we're on statistics real quick, that I wanted to say was that in 2014, 11% of Congress, or Congress had 11% approval rating, but they had a 96% re-election, whatever you call it. 96% got reelected. Yeah. Of incumbents. So you look at these things, right? And they don't make sense. If you're having 11% approval rating, but then the majority gets voted back in, and you're having the majority of people that don't actually support these parties, but they continue on, why is that? And that's where it goes to all these things being controlled and all of these things being rigged. Because it's not a government, and, you know, we know this, obviously, that I don't think it ever was. I don't think the things go together. I don't think you can have people that have power over you, but it's a government of the people. Yeah. So, like, they'll say, you know, oh yeah, it's a government of the people. We're the ones that, you know, tell the people what to do. Like that, there was that thing based off of Larkin Rose skit with an alien where he is asking him questions. I'll play that during a break, but
yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. So, and I'm kind of getting off topic here, but so, yeah, so going back to that, it's definitely, I think, one, to summarize this part of it, I mean, it's hard enough to get to be able to be part of one of these parties and be part of the primary. Then to actually win a primary, most of that is controlled by the party and the powers that be. And then if you're not part of either party, you just get these two candidates thrown in front of you, and it's really like, okay, well, whatever, you know. And depending on the office it is, if it's something important or not, it may be something that even the winner is that is rigged as well. And I think for most of Congress, that's what it is.
Yeah, and then just getting on the ballot, just getting your name on the ballot. There's all sorts of hoops you got to jump through. Money you got to pay like up front, just to get your name on there. Yeah, if you're looking at, I was looking at presidential bids for most of the research I did for this episode, but going back to presidential stuff, like there's the whole federal matching funds thing that Vermin was trying to do this year, where if you raise in excess of $5,000 in each of 20 states at least, then you get federal matching funds from this. It's all from like those when you do your taxes and they say, do you want to donate to this presidential fund? Like that's what
I always check no, because I just did my taxes.
Yeah,
motherfuckers took $20,000 from me.
Oh my gosh, you serious?
And well, that's not just the taxes. That's Social Security and FICA and Medicare, and in total is $20,000. I got back like $800. I didn't get it back yet, but I will.
That's so harsh. Yeah, I got back a tiny bit. I actually got fined. I got fined this time around for not having health care.
Did you?
Lovely?
How much was the fine?
Yeah. $27 a month. So it wasn't a lot, but that was for
$27 a month for the whole year.
Yeah, for the whole year.
So that's like 200 and something. It's
a chunk. Yeah,
three.
For what I
something.
make, it's actually quite a bit. And this is for.
But that's for now. That's gonna go way.
Is so ridiculous.
That's gonna go way up. That's what it is now.
It's going up. Yeah.
But at some point, it's going to be like a $5,000 fine.
It's going to be $700. Next year, it's going to be $700, and then it's probably going to keep going up after that. It's absolutely ridiculous. And looking for after I got fined this amount, I was looking at. I know we're totally off topic, but I want to keep going on this. I was looking at what if I just buy health insurance real quick? Like I'm not getting it through my employer right now because I didn't qualify. Last year, and so I'd have to wait till August to get it through my employer. So I was looking around, and there's nothing I can afford. Like it's so expensive that it's actually cheaper just to get fined by the federal government.
Well, now, but it won't be in like 5 years from now. If you go and you look at the schedule of how they're gonna do the fines, if I remember correctly. I mean, I know at least for me, because they were looking at there's a certain amount, or they look at percentage of incomes too. But I don't know if it's this or which is higher. I think it's usually which is higher, like, say
it's which is higher,
$1,000 or 10% of your income or something. So they're going to get fucked up with that. And what I see them doing with that is they have this list that they created. I forget what it's called. It's some like council or committee that they put together that has all these recommendations of what you should have the doctor do. And one of them, it's crazy. It was like you should have an abuse scan. Like every female should have a scan to see if she's been physically abused, whether she says she has or not. And then everybody should have an alcohol, screening to see if they're an alcoholic, like shit like that. And what I see happening
pretty soon, we'll have like across the board drug testing and
Well, not that, just that, but I see if you don't do it, like. Basically, I don't know if your work is like this or not when you fill out, and you didn't have insurance, I guess so. But like for my insurance, it asked if I'm a smoker. It asked if I agree to live a healthy lifestyle. It asks that shit, and it gives me a discount based on it. So what I'm saying is all of those things that they give you a list of, what's going to happen is they'll give you discounts based off them, and if you don't do them, they'll charge you more money. And you'll end up paying, you know, like fucking $10,000 a year or something ridiculous for insurance because
for not paying or not taking your government mandated vitamins.
And it's going to get like, or doing all these screenings, and it's going to get like where they know everything about you. It's all in your, you know, medical record along with all the spying they do. It's going to get crazy, but we're going to take a quick break, and I'm going to play that Government Explained, because that's that I think kind of relates to what we're saying, sort of, but it's a really good way of actually explaining government and how it really is, and it's kind of funny as well. It was based off of Larkin Rose speech, or he was doing, you know how he'll do I guess I would call them speeches. It's almost like stand-up comedy, but it's not comedy. It's him just doing like a speech or whatever. So it was based upon that, and then they put it with an alien, and it's fucked up though that they're talking about the US and both of them have like Australian accents. So we're going to take a quick break. Of course, check out ShireDude at shiredude.com. I know there's some, isn't there some big things in the works? You don't have to tell me what they are, but you can, but isn't there some, there's some stuff in the works that you're working on?
Still building the studio. I've been compiling I've been compiling lists of like gear to furnish this with which to furnish the studio. I was looking at like old posts from Michael W. Dean about like radio equipment. I can't fucking stand him. He's actually,
but he does.
He's fairly well versed in tech.
Yeah.
So
he was.
And I'll probably talk to. I'll probably talk to Brett Venat, because he's got a really nice setup. I don't know if you've seen his new studio for School Sucks.
No,
but it's top notch.
Unless he had a well, I seen his show before, but it didn't show like the whole studio. And I've seen Michael Dean's. I can't stand him, but I did actually buy some of the stuff that he had recommended because it was good, like those microphones that are pretty cheap that are that work really well. I'm not on one now, but I have like 3 of them or 2 of them. So when I have people in the studio, that's what I use. I have a Behringer mixer. So that was kind of a recommendation. I should I'll take some pictures of some stuff, and I should send you what I have as well, because I guess it depends how far you want to go price wise. Because I think some of the stuff I got is solid, but it was more, it was better price than some of the other stuff. But the mixer, actually, I went pretty high end. I think I got a little less than what he had. I got the one directly below what Michael Dean had. But like on the, I got a power conditioner. I got like a cheap power conditioner. And I got a, sound compressor. And I got a pretty good sound compressor that was, a reasonable price. So yeah, I got some stuff as well. If I could help at all, I know that some of these people probably know more than me, but if I'm starting to learn a lot about this stuff too. So if there's anything I could help you with, just let me know, and I'll do whatever I can to try to help.
Sure. Yeah, man.
All right. So definitely check out Shire Dude, shiredude.com. And you still have your whole, I still need to watch it, your season, your first season of, did you just call it Shire Dude? Didn't you do like
Shire
a season
Dude,
of, yeah.
Yeah, it's just Shire Dude the show.
And you can find that on
and then,
your
the newest
website?
show that's gonna come out. Yeah, it's all on shiredude.com, right on the front page. And then the new stuff. It's still deep in the works. But once that studio's built, man, it's gonna be crazy. So hopefully we'll get it on your network too.
Well, definitely.
We're talking about that.
Yeah, I'm definitely open to that. If you got something to put on the network, it's on there. Just let me know when. I definitely open up to no question there. I'll definitely put that on there. So no problem there. But are you looking to build both a video and audio studio, or just cameras for oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, to save money, at least at first, it's just going to be purely audio,
and then yeah, that's what I did, and I'm looking into possibly getting some cameras to maybe broadcast, live with video, but we'll see. But anyway, check the show out at NonPartisanLibertyForall.com. You'll find all the links to all the other places you can watch the show. Preferably, if you're going to replay the show, go to YouTube. So I can, right now, I think I have 21 cents so far. So we're building up, we're building up our money there. We're trying to get a candy bar. So, hey, go to YouTube, or and they actually take a lot of money though, but you can donate if you go to NonPartisanLibertyForall.com. I think it's /donations, but you'll find it if you go to NonPartisanLibertyForall.com. You can donate via PayPal, just need a credit card, and it's not something like some people were begging for donations, telling them that they're owed donations for putting all their time in and then screaming about it. I'm not like that. If you feel like you want to donate, hey, that's great. If you don't, then you don't. You don't owe me anything. I choose to put a show on. Hopefully you listen and enjoy the show, but if you don't want to donate, that's fine. If you do, that's great as well. So I'd appreciate anything that anybody would donate. I'd be very appreciative. But if you don't have the money, there's no problem there. Oh, and if you'd like to call in, the number is 702-470-7664, 702-470-7664. Or you can Skype into the show, Nonpartisan Liberty for All. Just send a contact request. And we will be right back after this with your host, me, Dave Bourne, and live from New Hampshire, Shire Dude. So we'll be right back.
Yeah.
Hey, an alien. Yes, I've travelled across space to check on the progress of your species. Cool. Shall I take you to our leader? Your what? Our leader, the guy in charge. The guy in charge of what? Well, in charge of everything. You have one guy in charge of everything? No, he's in charge of government. What is government? Well, government makes the rules for us. It tells us what we can do and what we can't do. So is government really smart? They come up with wise rules for you to follow?
Well, mostly. But some of its rules are really stupid.
Do you disregard those rules?
No, we have to follow the rules, even if they are stupid or we disagree with them. Government punishes anyone who disobeys the rules.
So you are slaves to government?
No, it's not like that at all. Government works for us, the people. It serves us. We're the boss.
It tells you what to do, and it punishes you with violence if you disobey it, and yet you're its boss?
Yeah.
But there are some things government does that you don't like.
Well, yeah, not everything government does is popular, like spending on wars, for example.
What is a war?
It's when government basically spends the people's money on weapons and soldiers and then sends them over to the other side of the world to kill a bunch of people over there and destroy their country. I don't like it that government does this.
Well, I can see why you might not like that. Have you humans reached the stage where you generally consider stealing, enslaving, and killing each other to be bad things?
Oh yeah, we know that. Don't steal, don't attack, don't assault.
But you give money to government and they use it to kill people.
Well, yeah. But government does good things with tax money as well.
Why don't you stop paying for the things you don't like and only pay for the good things it does?
No, we can't do that. You can't just decide to stop paying taxes because the rules say that everyone has to pay taxes.
But the rules come from government, though, don't they?
Yeah.
So government made a rule which says that everyone has to pay them money. So everyone pays taxes because if they didn't, government would punish them using violence?
Well, yes, but most people don't mind paying taxes. Most people feel obligated to pay taxes and obey government laws because it's for the good of society. Society needs government, and that means we all have to pay taxes.
So just to make sure I've got this straight, government makes the rules and you feel obligated to follow the rules, even the ones you don't like, and it tells you what to do and threatens to punish you if you don't do what it says, and it uses some of the money that it's taken from you using threats of violence to pay for things you don't like and actually think are immoral, like mass murder.
Yeah, but we can ask it to please tell us to do smart things, and please don't take our money and use it to kill people. We're allowed to ask them to tell us to do what we want them to tell us to do.
Are you guys just scared of this thing? Is government some huge monster that can just squish you at any moment if you disobey?
No, government isn't a monster.
Well, what is it then? Could you draw me a picture of it?
Government isn't really the sort of thing you can draw a picture of.
Maybe you could take me to it. Where is government?
You mean the building?
Government is a building.
No, but the politicians who make up the government have buildings they work from.
So government is a group of these politicians?
Yeah.
Okay, so what species are these politicians?
Well, they're human.
Like you?
Yeah.
So politicians are humans and they're government. You're a human, but you're not government.
No.
So it's the politicians, they're the ones that boss the rest of you around and make you do things you don't want to do and take your money using threats of violence. But even though you're all humans, you're not allowed to boss them around and take their money?
No, they'd put us in a cage if we did that. But look, it's not like the politicians can just do whatever they want. Like, a politician can't just come up to me on the street and make me give him money. They can't do that. Politicians can only do things like that in their job, when they're working for government.
Oh, so politicians aren't government. They just work for government.
Yeah.
Okay, so government isn't a monster, and it isn't a building, and it's not politicians, it's something else. And it employs politicians, who are just regular humans, who get to order everyone else around and take their money. How does a regular human become a politician?
Well, that's the great thing about our government. It's a democracy, and that means that the people actually have the power, because we get to decide who among us get to be the politicians. We get to vote. And if a politician starts doing things we don't like, we can just replace him with someone else at the next election.
So the people that get chosen to be politicians only get to boss people around and take their money for a short time, and then they go back to being regular humans?
Exactly.
That sounds like a powerful position to be in. But if you get to choose who does that, I assume that politicians are always the wisest, most honest, caring and respected people among you.
Well, no, not really. I wouldn't say politicians are known for being honest, or wise, or caring. And they're certainly not the most respected people among us. Come to think of it, most politicians are lying, power-hungry crooks.
The ones you chose?
Yeah, they're always doing things we don't like. They use taxpayers' money to enrich themselves and their friends, and they never keep their promises to voters. They've been caught stealing and lying and taking bribes, and they mostly do what the big corporations want. Yeah, they're always doing stuff like that. They're completely corrupt. They're a bunch of lying crooks.
But you said that most humans know that stealing and beating each other up and killing are wrong. And you said that you have the power because you can change who's in charge. So why don't you just replace the lying,
I've seen things
murderous,
no man should bear
with some regular people?
Well, we don't try to elect lying crooks. It just always turns out that way. But we have to have a government because some humans are nasty and
What do we really want to thank, right? We want to thank the people of New Hampshire, right? Do we love the people of New Hampshire? Congratulations to Bernie. In all fairness, we have to congratulate him. We may not like it, but I heard parts of Bernie's speech. He wants to give away our country, folks. He wants to give away. We're not going to let it happen. When you see the kind of deals made in our country, a lot of those deals are made because the politicians aren't so stupid. They're making them for their benefit. We have to stop it. We have to stop it. We are now going to make it for your benefit. We're going to have strong, incredible borders, and people are going to come into our country, but they're going to come into our country legally. They're going to come in legally. We're going to build a wall. It's going to be built. It's not even, believe it or not,
it's
not even a difficult thing to do. We are going to start winning again. We don't win anymore. As a country, we don't win on trade. We don't win with the military. We can't beat ISIS. We don't win with anything. We are going to start winning again. And we're going to win so much. You're going to be so happy. We are going to make America so great again. Thank you very much.
I'm so arrogant.
Nonpartisan Liberty for All. Call in at 702-470-7664 or Skype in. Username Nonpartisan Liberty for All.
And we are back. That was Trump's speech. He loves to talk in third person, although he didn't do it there. He's like, Trump is going to build a giant wall. Actually, I have a quote from what he said. What did he say when he was at the debate? because I want to talk about this as well. But before we do that, there's a couple more things I wanted to get to regarding the rigging of the elections. But where's where I had what he had said? Oh, we gonna win with Trump. The people are scared of Trump or something like that. Because he was talking about how people are, you know, they'll listen to him because they're like scared of him. But that was a quote, we gonna win with Trump. Imagine saying that, like, we're gonna win with Shire Dude, and you're saying that, and like, I don't know. I hate when people talk like in third person. It's just fucking annoying. But anyway, it looks like Bernie Sanders won 60% of the vote. Now, it's New Hampshire, so it really doesn't matter. I mean, he's from Vermont. So I would think, I don't know. I mean, you're there, so. But way I can get this fucking thing back.
Spreaker. It says now it says we are alive.
Yeah, but it's from the beginning. Fucking shit. Okay, well, we'll see. Hopefully, I'll figure it out, and hopefully I can you either use the backup or I'll edit it together, or we'll figure something out to get it up there, and fuck, I hate when I do that shit. But I usually don't. I just clicked on because there's the Spreaker Studio, and I don't even know what the fuck I clicked on because I didn't click on to turn it off. It like went out or something. So that really sucks. Anyway, I don't want to sit and dwell upon that. So yeah, we were talking about Trump and that Bernie Sanders got 60% of the vote. So getting 60% of the vote, now again, like we were saying, he is from Vermont, so I would assume that's why. I mean, you got to look at how many people vote in a Democratic primary anyway. So what do you think about that? Do you think that's something that it is just because he happens to be from Vermont and that whole thing, or do you think it really means? I mean, do you think it really means anything, or it's just
I definitely think there's a healthy mistrust of the establishment candidates here in New Hampshire. I think that it will be followed up by a terrible beatdown of these two candidates by the establishment going forward. A lot of people think Trump is establishment. I think he's a ringer. I like that theory of Trump is really just in it to get people to be scared of the Republican Party and go for Hillary instead. But that's I don't know how many people subscribe to that thought. But yeah, I don't think there's any way, and I don't think that Bernie is going to get any better of a chance in the rest of the states than he would have gotten had he got second place today.
Right.
I think we're going to see. Yeah, we're going to see the establishment prevail, just Hillary. Like we've seen the establishment prevail in every other election.
Well, again, going back to the point of the show, and I just realized my backup is full, so it just shut off. So I could try to take the two files actually, and this where I'm at right now, and then the original file, and kind of piece those together, and hopefully those will work. Either that, or the show just cuts off at 9:30. But I'm going to try to piece them together and see if that works. But I mean, like we were talking about, and the one thing we really didn't get to is president. So I want to kind of talk about that. And then if we have any time left, talk about the debate. But with president, that's something that is not going to slip through. That's something that they're going to make sure, the powers that be are going to make sure that whoever they want to be president is going to become president. And that's just bottom line. I don't know if you heard there was a clip from Alex Jones, and they were talking about how the establishment doesn't want Donald Trump to be president, and the establishment is going to, try to stop him, like Bush and Christie and Marco Rubio. And it's like, really? The establishment doesn't want Trump because why? Because he's a fucking douchebag. I mean, they act like Trump is.
They can buy. They can buy him just like any other candidate.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense. They would be afraid of him.
And the whole thing is that, plus, first of all, Trump is done as soon as they get to the what do you call it? The general election, if he's the nominee anyway. Because if you go back, and I did a show on Trump last week, and if you go back and look at all the shit that he has out there on tape, I mean, he's been wanting to be a celebrity forever. So ever since, he started building buildings, and then he had that public relationship with Marla Maples, where he cheated on Ivanka, or is that his daughter's name? I don't know. They almost have the same name. But he was so you probably don't remember this because you're a little younger, but and I was young at the time too, but they were all over the tabloids when he cheated on I think it's Ivanka. Ivanka's the ex-wife, and Ivana is the daughter, or is it the other way around?
Ivana's the daughter. Yeah,
okay,
I'm pretty sure.
So,
I'm pretty sure Ivana's the daughter.
So he has all this stuff out there about him that they haven't gone after him over. So if he makes it to the general election, it's going to be easy for them to attack him because they have just so much kind of ammunition there to attack him with. I mean, if you look at somebody like Hillary, she's pretty much been through the ringer already. Everybody knows, there's still the email thing that's going on. And from what I understand, what she did was pretty bad. But I don't know that they're going to do anything about it because she's Hillary. But either way, I mean, she's pretty much been through all of that stuff already. Trump, all of the stuff that he's done, no one's really talked about it. I haven't seen really any attacks on Trump. The only thing I remember being brought up was the bankruptcy of the casinos in New Jersey. The other things that I wanted to mention is they keep saying that, this is the most important election ever. And don't they say that every fucking election? Because it seems like it.
Yeah.
That this is the most important election ever. And
another thing, too, is I've noticed where they want to have it both ways. People will say when they're trying to elect a president, they'll say, this is the most important office, and this is the man who's going to lead the country. And they raise this position up like it's the position to end all the bad things and in with the new and the good. And then 8 years in, when it's a lame duck president and he hasn't done anything, he's continued all the wars like Obama. Essentially, when we have an Obama situation, after the fact, they'll say, "Oh, well, the president is just mainly a figurehead, and it's really Congress that makes the laws."
Right.
And, well, if there's political gridlock, all of a sudden it's the position of no power. when at the beginning it was the position of all the power.
What about
you can't have it both ways.
The leader
It's
of the
one
free
the other.
world, right? Yeah. I mean, the president really doesn't have that much power. What they're doing, though, is it seems like, and Bush did this to an extent as well, is they want to give the president more power. So the more executive orders that are more like making laws and they're just accepted, it's just going to be generally accepted that, well, the president can make small laws and then it will just keep going where it is more like a fucking dictator. The main thing I've always said is, since I've been doing the show, that the main goal of the government is to control everything and everybody and every aspect of your life. And they're going to put in there whoever is, it's just like look what Obama did compared to what Bush did. Like they said, oh, change and all this shit, right? And then he did the same shit Bush did. He probably did worse. He drone bombed people and he did all of that stuff. So, yeah, some things that they don't care about, it's like whatever. But when it comes to the agenda of the elite, the people that are really running things, whoever becomes president is going to carry out that agenda. It doesn't matter who it is. And Reagan, didn't do that initially, and they made sure he did. They shot him, and then that kind of changed things there. And even in David Rockefeller's book, he had said that, Ronald Reagan went after, the Trilateral Commission and the CFR. Oh, but in '84, he had us over to the White House, after he was shot, because he was like, he had changed his mind about us. Yeah, a bullet might do that after, you shoot somebody. So, I mean, I think basically when it comes down to the presidential election, that no one's going to, this bullshit that Alex Jones saying, about Trump, that he's like he's making him out to be like he's like some threat to the government, like he's actually going to be about freedom or something. Like, no, he says all the exact same shit that everybody else does. He's going to build a wall. He's going to get more military and build up the military. He doesn't care about freedom of speech. He wants to shut down parts of the internet. He didn't even understand, like, I don't think he knows really what the internet is. I don't know. But he's just like everybody else. The only difference with Trump is that he's not a career politician and that he's an arrogant, pompous little baby who insults everybody. That's it. I mean, that's really the only difference between Trump and everybody else.
He can give it, but he can't take it.
Yeah. And all these morons think Trump, we need to vote for Trump and he's great. And I'm like, I feel like we're like in the Twilight Zone or something. Seriously. I mean, Donald Trump is running for president and he's winning. And this, it's like, what is this? Just a big joke? Seriously, that shows how dumbed down America is. I mean, are we an idiocracy? It seems like that's another example of the intelligence of Americans. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, man. Idiocracy is such a scary and accurate movie. I don't even know where to begin all this, man. It's just it's disheartening, but I'm trying to wrap my head around like all this stuff that we've been talking about tonight. It's disheartening that you have such little ability to change things by voting for any kind of federal official or, depending on where you live, state
Even
official.
The state, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm gonna toot the horn, man. In the free state of New Hampshire, where we're having thousands of free staters are going to be moving here because we've triggered the dang move.
The 20,000.
We already have like more representation than the average citizen.
Right.
Free staters, early movers only make up 0.15% of the population, yet we have 5% of the state house. So they're getting elected, and they're getting elected even while they're saying, "Oh yeah, I'm an anarchist," or "Oh yeah, I'm a libertarian," and they're running on the D and the R tickets. So I think depending on where you live, that'll, your mileage is going to vary based on your representation. Just the fact that I moved from California to New Hampshire. When you talk about like percentage of the population, like what percentage of the population am I just by myself? Obviously, New Hampshire has a lot fewer people, so I have a lot more representation in like the local decisions, and whatnot. Right. Yeah,
because obviously
grab the harness.
California's huge,
Me trying to get on even like a city council in California would be a ridiculously hard task.
Right.
But I could totally do that here.
In New Hampshire, you could possibly even be a representative. Shit.
I bet you I could get a state rep seat. Actually, you know what? That's something that I wanted to talk about before we close out tonight. Because I know we're low on time. But
it's okay. Go ahead.
I want to, and I've been thinking about this for a long time. I wanted to legally change my name to Shire Dude and run for office and various offices.
Okay.
And I'd have great signs that would say "Vote Dude."
Or did you say that to anybody else yet?
I don't know if I've mentioned this on any radio shows yet.
Oh, okay, cool.
I might have, but. So this might be the first announcement of that. And one thing that I want to do is be kind of like somewhat of a satirical candidate, just kind of do goofy, zany things that other candidates would never go near. And one of the things that I would do, let's see if I was appointed to like a state house position, would be I would only repeal bills. I would only introduce legislation that repeals things.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier when I had talked to Annette about repealing bills. Yeah, and that's what I would do too. If I don't have any plans to ever be part of government, but if I did, that's exactly what I would do. Is I would go through. I would probably focus on the criminal shit. And try to find ridiculous criminal bills or criminal statutes and try to repeal as many of those as possible.
Well, yeah, because then you're freeing people, You're actually getting people out from under the thumb of the state. And I think you're saving people, essentially. You're a modern day superhero if you're actually preventing people from getting locked up in cages.
You're older.
Yeah. So
man.
I mean, older man. I got to figure out what an alderman is so I can go run for that office.
Yeah, I don't know. I heard of it before, but I was like, what the fuck is that? I thought it was something in a church.
I think this is an altar boy.
I did. I was like, an alderman. Is that like something in a church or something?
Alderman and his trusty sidekick, Altar Boy.
Altar Boy. Well, that might not be working out too well because you don't know what the alderman's doing to the altar boy. But so are you gonna if you legally change your name to Shire Dude? If you had kids, what would you name your kids?
I would let my kids name themselves. That's been a thing that I've
well, that would take a while though. because they can't, they can't talk.
It would.
What would you name them in the interim?
They just have to figure it out, man.
Baby dude, and until they
I might
the dude baby, because at the hospital,
like a nickname or something.
They put like, well, that's what they put at the hospital. Like if you haven't come up with a name yet, because they put like the last name, so they put like dude baby or something, or baby dude.
That's a whole other mess. I mean, now we're getting into like a whole wormhole of like, we could do an entire show on like kids and like, what to do when you have kids within the liberty movement, and like, oh man,
yeah.
For one thing, I wouldn't want
shows on
public
that,
schooling.
Yeah, me neither. I've already
and
talked
I wouldn't
about
want to.
Oh, go ahead.
Like I wouldn't want to have kids in a hospital.
Me neither.
I
said
automatically.
all that shit to my fiance, that I'd want her to have to homeschool, to have kids at home, to get a, what do you call those, midwife, to get a midwife and have the kids at home, and to homeschool, and then for her to stay home with the kids and not work.
Yeah, I mean that's the ideal right there, is just to kind of keep your kids away from the state as long as you can, and then when they're old enough, you can kind of have them decide if they want to, if they want to end up going for public education or if they want to stay outside of the system. But just to have that option, I think would be grand.
Once they get to a certain point, and that's I mean, I think I was talking about. I think it was when last time you were on, because of the we talked about the what do you call it, hacktivists, and when I was talking about the most important things, that was one of the things I mentioned is the peaceful parenting and having your kids grow up free.
Yeah,
because the conclusion really of all of this shit is that we're not going to change anything this way. What is fucking voting for one of these people going to do? Not to mention the fact that they're all controlled. Whoever gets elected, it's rigged, and that's who they wanted. Never mind that, but you only have one fucking vote anyway out of the whole country. So what does that mean anyway? So I personally have given up probably a long time ago. I've never voted in my life, but like totally on the state being the way to change things. Because again, how are you going to change the system via the system? If you don't like what especially when it's doing away with the system. So you're going to use the system to do away with the system. And that's where that whole non-compliance thing, to me, comes into play. And I think part of it, unfortunately, I don't think there's any other way to do it, but there would be some altercations in doing that. Hopefully, not many, and not ones where people got seriously injured, but I don't see it. I see that if people want true freedom and liberty, that I don't see any other way. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on it, but especially, talking about all this and how all this shit is just totally fucking rigged. It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
And there's no way you're going to change anything. And if you do change something, it's going to be something meaningless anyway. So what are your thoughts on that?
My kind of last comment on this would be, even if a Ron Paul type figure went the distance and he was elected president of the United States, and he had the very best intentions.
Only side has so much power anyway.
Right. Government as we know it started with people with the best of intentions. I'd like to think. It started with people who were like, you know what, we're gonna fix things. We're gonna fix this social order. And even the best intentions in a system like government where it's just poisonous, and it's a system that will do what it wants to do regardless of the intentions of the people trying to run it. I think you're just, you're throwing you're throwing a mouse into a whole system of cogs and wheels that are just going to keep moving, and they're just gonna grind up that politician and spit him back out. You're not gonna find that perfect angel politician that's going to be able to change them. And even if you do, the rest of them are going to chew them up and spit them out.
Or they're going to literally kill them. I mean,
yeah,
it's going to be an accident or something.
Sure. Yeah. And it's not necessarily disheartening. It's just, I think the lesson we can learn from this is to, if you really want to play the politics game, go for the local stuff and see what you can do at the very lowest level. And sure, you might be able to change something in your town. That's not too lofty of a goal. I think that's fair, especially if you live in a really cool place like Manchester, New Hampshire.
Yeah, I mean, if you live in a small enough place and you want to, I mean, there's things you can change here and there, but nothing I don't think it's anything in the big scheme of things that's really going to help to make things freer. It might make them a little tiny bit freer. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
in the big scheme of things, it's not going to do much, and it's not going to, and at the same time, they're still moving forward. So while people are trying to, and I'm not saying they shouldn't do it. I think people should do whatever they want to do, and I'm not going to put them down for it or tell people what they should do. But what I'm saying is that while maybe you're working on this one little thing that ends up, being successful, the federal government has just passed, 1,000 things that affect your freedom, even worse than the thing you just helped fix.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a tough one. I was looking into another kind of last thought here, of all the people in the race currently for president who have mentioned that the system is rigged somehow. And it's very interesting. Like Fiorina, Cruz, Sanders, Chris Christie, who actually just suspended his campaign like an hour ago or something.
Did he?
Yeah,
suspended it out. Like he's done?
Like
or?
Suspended, like, yeah, he's done. He's done. He's suspended is slang for done. But yeah, all the pot smokers just heaved a big sigh of relief. But yeah, all of these people who are running in the system are saying that it's rigged, and yet they're still, in the system trying to change it from the inside. It doesn't make any sense. What does make sense is that Hillary Clinton doesn't usually say that it's rigged. She doesn't really mention that, and I think that her eventual and I think inevitable victory will explain why. Essentially, because it's been rigged in her favor.
If she's the one who wins, she doesn't want to say it's rigged.
Yeah.
With Bernie Sanders, I mean, he focused more on the financial part of it because, he's all about, well, people aren't getting enough pay and this and that. So he did say that, but he was more on the financial part. But yeah, I did read. I actually posted an article that said that it's even the election. They did say that, a lot of them, that the election is rigged. the same way that we're kind of saying it now. They didn't get into too much details, but they did say not by stuffing the ballot box or anything like that. So, yeah, I think people are obviously noticing that, but it doesn't seem to change anything. So, well, that's all for tonight, unless you got any last words before we go, or
let's see. I think, we talked about Vermin Supreme enough that I'd like to mention his and I don't know if this is still up, actually. I probably should have done my homework on this. There's a documentary coming out with Vermin Supreme in it, and it's called Save the Planet, Kill Yourself. And it's definitely...
Is it about CO2?
Worth a look. It's about the Church of Euthanasia, which was like a really culty church project kind of performance art thing that it happened, and Vermin was in it back in like his early days, and so you get to see a younger Vermin Supreme have a lot of performance art fun with some really kooky characters, and I believe it's still on Kickstarter, if I'm not mistaken. Oh yeah, it looks like, wow, they've raised a bunch of money. I'm looking at it right now. Anyway, definitely check that out. Check out the trailer for that. I'm really excited for that to come out.
Okay. And, of course, ShireDude.com. Go check out the first season of Shire Dude over there. And we will be, I will be back tomorrow, but Shire Dude will be joining us 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Listen to police
right?
officers' commands. Listen to what we tell you.
Yes.
And just stop. The nation needs to realize that when we tell you to do something, do
2
it.
weeks from tomorrow. So thanks everybody for joining us. Hopefully I can edit together those two, that little issue we had, and get the show all together. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks to Shire Dude. Thanks to Annette, Tejirio. Go look her up on Facebook. And that's all we have for tonight. Thanks everybody.